No funny or clever line this time, folks. Simu Liu is the most insufferable prick in Hollywood. Hello, I'm Marvin, and I'm the Movie Monster. There are a few people in the Hollywood sphere that have the ability to instantly annoy me to the extent that Simu Liu does. He's everything wrong with modern Hollywood. A vapid, pointless, virtue-signaling glory hound with all the authenticity of a get-well card from a funeral home. Honestly, I can only think of one other person who pushes my annoyance buttons to that same extent. But Simu Liu has been utterly insufferable since taking on the role of Shang-Chi for Marvel. In that time, he seemingly declared himself king of all Asia, and is constantly advocating for causes that most Asian people that I know don't give a far-flung flying fagnola about.
I don't care.
This week, Liu is talking about cultural appropriation. Two words that when said in succession will annoy me on a good day and enrage me on a bad day. And today has been a very bad day, folks.
Son of a bitch!
Recently, Simu Liu accused a Canadian company of appropriating his culture by selling Boba Tea, a product that was produced within the last 20 years in Taiwan. Liu, a Chinese Canadian, is no more Taiwanese than I am. I might add, he's also a Chinese Canadian who took the role of a Korean in the show Kim's Convenience, utterly appropriating the Korean culture through his performance.
Fools! Idiots! Imbeciles!
Not really, obviously. That's the last thing that I would ever be personally offended by, but according to his own logic, that would be true for Simu Liu, right? Simu Liu came down on these business owners so hard that his loving, empathetic, and on the right side of history fans took it upon themselves to start issuing death threats to people. So Simu had an oh crap moment when he realized that he unleashed a beast and had to try to put the genie back in the bottle. But he was posed with an interesting dilemma. How can Simu Liu walk back his comments, condemn the violent threats, but still somehow make himself the victim, fail to apologize, and come off like a bigger douche canoe than he was walking in? It's a tough job, but don't worry, folks. He's up to it. But speaking of being up to jobs, the task of navigating through this cloud of smug is too much for one monster to handle. I had to bring in a ringer, a specialist, a sort of sommelier, if instead of wine he was an expert in hating Simu Liu. That's right, Bounding Into Comics editor-in-chief Spencer Baculi is joining me this week to dish about Simu Liu on Tooney TV. All right, guys, we are talking tonight about Simu Liu, and when you're talking about Simu Liu, there's only one person that you have to bring up. The one and only president of the We Hate Simu Liu fan club or anti-fan club, enemies club. It is the editor-in-chief of boundingintocomics.com, the one and only Spencer Baculi, Kabuto Rida Mav. Welcome back.
To me, he has always been like take everybody's channeling of what we have against Zack Snyder, Brie Larson, all of these people. To me, Simu Liu has officially always been way more just the worst. Like I'm leaping right into it. Hello, everyone. Yes, it's me. I'm glad to be back, Marvin. It has been a while, and I'm so glad you brought me on to talk about literally my favorite subject in the entire world.
Well, yeah, we wanted to have you on when we talked about it on Tooney TV, but you weren't able to make it. But so I figured this is even better. You know, we can
I'm really happy we got to. I
we can dive into it
last Thursday, but I'm so ready for this, Marvin.
All right, well, let's get into this article. Well, this article right here, this scathing article, Shang-Chi star Simu Liu plays the victim after Bubble Tea Company he accused of cultural appropriation receives death threats. Quote, I just don't want the legacy of this segment to be pitchforks and people fearing for their safety. Written by Spencer Baculi, editor-in-chief of Bounding Into Comics. So
let me give you a quick setup to this, Marvin, because you're involved in this setup.
So very good.
Remember, so when this story broke and dropped, it was about or at least you tagged me on Twitter in it, and I was busy. It was like Tuesday of last week, Wednesday of last week, and I was super busy, so I didn't get to it until around midnight my time. I sat down, I saw notification click, I saw it was from Marvin, and I saw that it was Simu Liu's picture right there front and center, and I just went, it's midnight. Do I need to do this? No, I can do this story tomorrow. And then Jacob of Society Reviews and Bounding into Comics at that exact moment sent me the link as well and was like, your boy's at it again. So I went, all right, Marvin, what is it? I clicked on Marvin's link, and as soon as those like first 3 seconds started of him talking, it just like Super Saiyan awakening. I was like, there's the energy. I'm ready to go. We're not going to bed until like I hold this man accountable, because I'm done with it.
Yeah, I mean, and you have a unique perspective on his pandering, because you are an Asian American, and you know, so you take exception with the fact that he kind of grandstands and claims that he speaks for all Asians everywhere when he you know.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hostages and- yeah.
The way I like to present it is that Simu Liu genuinely believes he is God's gift to Asians. Like every time he comes out, he's just being the smarmiest, over like up his own butt. If you guys remember, he's had a history of, you know, going out and just making a complete fool of himself with a lot of statements where he tries to grandstand on a social, you know, perspective or a progressive perspective. One of my favorites will always be when when he got cast as Shang-Chi, he went out and he went, oh, look, finally, Asians are being represented. I'm finally breaking the mold. Before I got this role, I thought that the only role for Asians in movies in America was getting beat up by the bad guy. And I go, first of all, that's not even true. Shang-Chi comes out in 2020, 2021, around the pandemic time. So
yeah,
what about Donnie Yen? What about Jackie Chan? What about Jet Li? All of these legends. Bruce Lee is such an American icon that a lot of people forget about his, like, that he was Chinese still. Like, that's how big Bruce Lee was to our culture. So
it's like what's her name saying that Katniss Everdeen was the first ever female action star.
Well, to be fair, you gotta remember, Jennifer Lawrence has done the first everything. She actually was the first Asian American to be cast in a non-getting beat up role. So she beat Simu to that by years. So there was that move. And then the secondary move off of that was I believe it was Bob Iger. Yeah, Bob Iger was being interviewed around the time the movie was coming out. And the interview was about the release format of it. Because if you guys remember, they did the month in theater. They were going to drop it right on Disney Plus. You know, they were experimenting because everything was closed down. So in that interview, Bob Iger, they go, what do you think about Shang-Chi? How do you think that release schedule is going to work? And he goes, I think it's going to be an interesting experiment. You know, we've never done this before. So who knows what's going to happen? You know exactly what it is, Marvin. Immediately after that, Simu comes out and goes, I'm sorry, Asian movies are experiments to you. You can't take a risk on us. I'm so, and he just like got all indignant. And it's just like that he wasn't talking about you, dude. Like
mofo
down.
Mofo, this is your big break. Like, this is your big break. Are you really going to spit in the face of the man who gave it to you?
Well, it's not only his big break. It's the thing we see all the time where the people who claim to be the most progressive and stereotype breaking always just lean into the stereotypes the hardest. Because if Simu Liu came out, like, okay, Simu Liu's coming out and saying, this is so amazing. We're finally being represented. We finally have our movie. Okay, yeah, you're the first Asian-led Marvel movie or whatever, but you're still playing a Chinese kung fu man with like mysticism and like all of that stuff. Like it is essentially like if it wasn't being funded by Disney, you would all be out here going, that's racist. Oh my goodness, how could you? Blah blah blah. But
you know what's so funny about that?
Yeah. No, go ahead.
What's amazing about that is you cast an Asian guy as a kung fu character, and they're all going to scream that it's racist. And if you cast like anyone else as a kung fu character, that it's cultural appropriation. And you know, how dare you not cast it? We saw it with Iron Fist, despite the fact that Danny Rand has been a white character since his inception in the comics. They were all like, "This is racist," and I'm like, "Okay, well, you'd call an Asian guy playing it racist too. So we're just not supposed to have kung fu anymore."
Well, that's what blew my mind, Marvin. I know we're detouring a little, but like in the comics, when that whole uproar happened because of Simu Liu and everybody went, well, look at Iron Fist. That's racist. They went, okay, we're going to hire Alyssa Wong, an Asian creator, to write a new Iron Fist. And they reappropriated I believe the character's like in universe, he's Korean, and they made him into the new Iron Fist instead of Danny. And it was this big hubbubaloo, and everybody was clapping, like, yes, finally giving Asians their due. And I'm like, you just made the mystical Asian kung fu character into an Asian guy. Like, you guys are doing the exact same things you claim to hate. Now, I'm not against that as a story trope. I get it. It can work. Obviously, we love Iron Fist. But when you can't sit on one side and go, that's awful, blah, blah, blah. And then when your side does it, go, oh, yeah, that's the bestest ever.
Right. All right. Let's jump into your article here because I can't wait to just dive into
So
your
that was
word.
the preamble to Simu.
Yeah.
What's he up to now, Marvin?
He's at it again, folks. I love the way you started this out. He's at it again, folks. In once more attempting to performatively present himself as one of Hollywood's premier proponents of progressive thinking. That was some excellent alliteration right there, my friend.
I thought you'd like.
Wow.
I knew you liked. I know you're one of my closest friends who likes alliteration. So when I was doing that, I was like,
I mean,
this one's for you, Marv. I've got
my
you.
name is Marvin the Movie Monster Montanero. So yeah. Marvel's Shang-Chi and the Legends of Ten Rings star Simu Liu has responded to the news that death threats have been issued to the fledgling Boba Tea company that he accused of cultural appropriation on live TV by asking his supporters to scale back their rhetoric out of consideration for not safety, not common decency, the legacy of the moment.
Marvin, are we going to watch these at all for this? I know one of them is a little long.
No, we're not going to watch them just because copyright.
So,
and stuff like that.
yeah, that's what I was worried about. But that writing right there, that was sort of obviously I'm watching this clip and Simu starts going Simu, but when I saw his response and it was all just me, I was like, can we please be done with this guy? Can we please be over him? Can Hollywood wake up?
I would love to go back and count the number of times he says I and me throughout the course of that.
That's exactly it, Marvin. I didn't sit there and count, but I'm just listening and I'm like, there's a lot of me, I, myself, how I do this. And I'm like, are we going to talk about...
Yeah, you're not the one
else?
being given the death threats, Simu. The guys that are getting the death threats are the ones that you sicked the mob on.
He's so awful. Well, let's get into it so that everybody knows what we're talking about, and we will definitely keep going.
So the Canadian actor's latest media debacle began on October the 10th when the Canadian Broadcasting Company had the latest version of their country's version of Dragon's Den, which is kind of like Shark Tank. The reality investment television series wherein entrepreneurs attempt to solicit investments in their respective businesses from a panel of notable venture capitalists. Featuring Liu as a special celebrity guest dragon this episode, season 19, episode 3, at one point saw the panel approached by the team behind Boba, a Quebec-based beverage company that sells bottles of bubble tea, both virgin and alcoholic, in various flavors. When the time came for the actor to make a decision on whether or not to partner up with the company, rather than either simply declining to invest or attempting to explain his thoughts in good faith, Liu, the Canadian-born son of two Chinese immigrants, declined the company's offer by way of condescendingly accusing them of cultural appropriation. I'm studying your can, and I'm looking for anything that tells
weird.
me...
That was perfect. That was weird, Marvin. Holy crud.
Where Boba came from is Taiwan, said the actor, per clip in the segment provided by the Canadian pop culture-centric Twitter account 6for Buzz TV.
Yeah.
I started this venture company for a lot of reasons, but really primarily to uplift minority entrepreneurs. And not only do I feel like this is not happening here, but that I would be uplifting a business that's profiting off of something that feels so dear to my cultural heritage. I want to be a part of bringing boba to the masses, but not like this. And for that reason, I'm out. I'm sorry. Your cultural heritage? Your cultural heritage? The last I saw,
it's Taiwan, not China.
Yes. So wait, are you saying Simu Liu that you are a supporter of the Chinese government and their belief that Taiwan is just a part of China? Are you going to have to so that you don't have to issue an embarrassing apology like John Cena? Or Taiwanese Spencer, Taiwanese culture and Chinese culture are completely different from one another. They don't even speak the same language.
And here's the thing, Marvin, to that point, like there is obviously Taiwan is an offshoot of China. It was a Chinese territory. They separated. We all know the history behind that. So there's an origin point where at one point those two cultures deviated. The thing is, that was a long time ago. And it's like you said, the cultures have deviated. They've, Taiwan has their own culture. China has their own culture. And to that point, folks, bubble tea, boba, is only 20 years old. Yeah. This is a brand new thing. This is a full Taiwan thing. It's not a Chinese drink.
You mean they weren't making it by hand in the Shaolin Temple?
No, they weren't. They weren't in the, no mention of it in Journey to the West. Sun Wukong did not enjoy any bubble tea. despite what Simu Liu would want you to believe. And the other insane part here is, now, Marvin, I think you might have some experience with this, but for those who don't know, there's this weird trend among the first generation immigrant, or kids of immigrants from anywhere, and especially from Asia, where if your parents come over, both, let's say Chinese, Taiwanese, Japanese, dirty knees, look at these, whatever, they come over and they typically go, we left for a reason. We love America. We want to embrace what's here. Yes, we love our culture and we want to bring things over, but we also understand it's not the best place ever. There are a lot of problems, and that's why we left. Their kids growing up primarily in America or Canada or Europe or whatever, they don't see all that. So they get really into, I'm Chinese. I'm definitely Chinese. And it's like, you maybe went there once when you were a baby. You need to chill out really hard on this rhetoric. And that's exactly what Simu is doing here. He's going, again, Canadian born, from a son of 2 Chinese immigrants, and he's losing his mind over something that's not even technically from his country of origin. And I also want to note, remember, he got his start playing a Korean character.
I was just about to make this point. Just about to make this point. He's Chinese Canadian, and he's playing a Korean in a show that's all about being Korean. He has culturally appropriated the people of Korea. And here's the thing, Spencer,
100%.
because I think that he just takes the continent of Asia with everything underneath Russia as being the same people, the same culture, and he speaks for all of them. Because look at this. At this. Because I looked this up because I was getting hot about this. Taiwanese culture and Chinese culture are different in many ways, including the government, language, culture, and identity. Taiwan is
like those that makes it 2 separate entities at this point.
Yep. Taiwan is an independent country with its own constitution and democratically elected leaders, while China is the People's Republic of China. Taiwan has been governed independently from mainland China since 1949. Now, Mandarin is widely spoken in Taiwan, but Taiwanese is still prominent in the South. And Taiwanese Mandarin uses traditional Chinese characters to write. There are also differences in pronunciation and grammar between Taiwanese and Chinese Mandarin. For example, the word trash is pronounced, I'm not even going to attempt, differently between the two. I don't want to be culturally insensitive. But yeah, most people in Taiwan identify as Taiwanese, while only a small percentage identify as primarily Chinese. So
it is a very big thing. So I once dated a girl who was Taiwanese, and if you accidentally accidentally suggested oh yeah, from when you were in China or whatever, or even reminded her parents of their time in China, I would be frozen out for a week. It was bad. They do not want to be associated. Just I know, America and Europe, right? Or England. We came from England. Sure, there's similarities, but we are not English. Do not put that on me.
No, I know an older gentleman, first generation. He's like when the People's Revolution happened, the communists kidnapped his father and locked his mother in prison. Whoa. He swam to Hong Kong to hop a boat and escape because it was that bad. Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you the whole story off.
Of course. That's just so. But that's to your point. It's not great over there, and Taiwanese don't want to be associated with Xi Jinping and everything that's going on over there.
And I doubt they want Simu Liu, this Chinese Canadian actor who I believe was born in China, actually.
Okay, correct.
I believe I did read that, calling it my cultural heritage. Shut up.
And I think I think what you just said, I think it was a point that I probably knew in my head, but never spotlighted until you said it. But yeah, the second you realize that he's probably trying to speak as the representative for all Asians, all of this makes more sense. And it makes it reinforces how dumb he is just 100-fold.
I just looked it up. Simu Liu was born in Harbin, China.
All right. I stand corrected. I will take that out.
Immigrated to Canada at the age of 5, so it's very likely he doesn't actually remember anything about being in China.
Probably not. And again, Boba's only 20 years old. Simu Liu's 33. It didn't even exist by the time he got over here.
The warrior monks carried the tapioca in big buckets up the stairs both ways as part of their training. And then one day it dropped into the Grand Master of Kung Fu's tea, and he was like, And
Well,
that's
see-
how we got Boba Tea in ancient
Well, see,
China.
That's how you're confused. That's how it probably really happened. But if you do the Simu version, like the monk was Korean, there was probably a Japanese delivery guy, there was a Filipino dude stirring the spot. All
Yeah.
the Asians were hanging out. That's
Yeah,
why
and they were all arm in arm because they're like, if there's one thing that we all are great at, it's getting along.
the number one intra-Asian trait. We all get along. Yep.
Yeah, all countries linking together in harmony. They all love all the other different kinds of Asians.
It's not like if you are born a street over, you are now like bloodline enemies for the rest of your life.
So moving on in your article here, which I love this article so much. Following the company's exit from the den,
part. Woo!
Liu can be then seen. This is the damning part. Then seen telling his fellow dragons, "It makes me sad how successful this business is. It makes me sad that people are drinking with a raccoon with sunglasses on the can." This pompous declaration,
Thank
as you
you.
so eloquently put it,
It's
in turn.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it is pure pompous. It is pure and that is him. He knows exactly what he's doing when he says this on camera. He's now attempting to drive these people out of business.
It's the same rhetoric our sphere here has seen for years. The same, oh, this is dangerous. I don't know if we should be supporting that. It seems like they're just asking questions, but they're not. That they're saying,
it's Kim Belair being like, or it's Anita Sarkeesian being like, man, it'd be a real shame if people thought your studio was sexist.
How about that? Yeah.
So this was met
they thought you were racist.
This was met with pushback from one of the other series' main panelists, Minhas Breweries and Distillery owner Manjeet Minhas, who defended their guests. It doesn't mean they don't have the opportunity to change and do that. That's true, Liu said, but there has to be a willingness. And I have to be able to invest in these founders, knowing that the change is possible. Shut up!
Okay, I'm going to add. So in response to that, Mina basically goes, well, they didn't say no. And they've been working with their distributor in Taiwan. If this is the first time they've ever heard of this issue, can you blame them? And it cuts to Simu Liu, and he goes, he just like he gives a look of like this lady, you know what I mean? Like, okay, lady, like doesn't say anything, clearly gets shut down.
You just don't understand because you're not Asian.
But that's sort of what point I was getting at, is that this is such an example of that terminally online neoliberal cancel culture, because we see this all the time, where whenever anybody on that side of the spectrum or of that extremity tries to make a point, they will ignore everything that happened in the past and anything that might happen as a result of what you're saying, just to win that argument right then and there, just for that moment of, in this second, I am right and I look great. And that's what you see here, where Simu's going, I'm so disappointed they did this. And the late Minas is like, but they didn't say that. Well, they did this. No, they didn't. You didn't talk to them, and shut down, because he is ignoring what is literally right in front of him, because the entire time they're out there, I guarantee you he's sitting there going, I'm not going to do this. How do I grandstand this properly? How do I do this?
How do I make a moment out of this that people are going to be talking about on social media tomorrow? That was what he was thinking.
None of this right here, even more so than probably most celebrities, this is completely manufactured. This is not him genuinely being, buying into that, that side's Kool-Aid. It's literally him going, how can I use this for me? It's insane.
So in response, instead of continuing to pound his chest, he simply looked ahead and nodded silently. Then, unsurprisingly, rather than this public humiliation attempt actually benefiting anything other than Liu's ego, it instead led to Boba facing a reported wave of harassment and death threats from those who shared the actor's mindset, aka crazy people. Eventually, the 4chan crazy people. Eventually, the outrage against the company apparently grew so extreme that Liu himself saw fit to offer a public post-show statement on the entire situation, aka there were public death threats being issued, and his publicist was like, "You go fix this right now."
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if it's it's probably partially his publicist, but again, none of this came about because he actually felt bad for that company. This comes out because they go, oh, this could ding your image. This could have a bad reflection on your image. That's why he comes out and makes this statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So eventually, the outrage against the company apparently grew so extreme that Liu himself saw fit to offer a public post-show statement on the entire situation. And while he did, to his credit, ask his fans to scale their actions way the hell back, he also used the opportunity to both highlight his virtuous actions and, far from actually apologizing for the patronizing way in which he made his point, lament how the positive energy that came from them was being overshadowed by the harassment. Hey everyone, it's Simu, began the Bobby actor's response as posted to his personal TikTok account because he's a 13-year-old girl.
That's I specifically highlighted that because when I was like doing the thing and I went to find the source, it was TikTok, and I went, "Oh, you're such a disingenuous like chess player right now," because you know why he's going to TikTok? That's the young person platform. That's where the people who would most agree with his rhetoric are going to be. So instead of going to Twitter or Instagram or any of the other number of like public opportunities he could have gone through, he could have gone on like Good Morning America if he really wanted to talk about this because he's a celebrity. But instead he went to the one place where he's going to get all of the love, all of the support, very minimal pushback, because that's not what the audience is.
Right. So he goes, I just thought I'd make a video here in response to this crazy social media moment that I found myself in as it pertains to that you put yourself in. As it pertains to Dragon's Den and the boba of it all. I'm so funny.
Dude, we reviewed this article on last Wednesday's Bounding stream, or I reviewed it on my on a different stream, not the Bounding stream. But when the host got to that point, I couldn't help myself. I did the like, so funny. Like it's not funny. You're not funny. Get real.
First and foremost, I think we hit on a very important discussion on cultural appropriation.
No, we didn't.
Oh, what it is, how is something exploitative rather than paying homage and paying respect? When is that line crossed? In that conversation, by the way, I've continued to experience a massive wave of positivity and support from all the people that are issuing death threats to these people right now. No, from people of every community, and I just think that's really incredible, and I appreciate that. On the flip side, I've been made aware that the business owners have received a lot of death threats and harassment and otherwise kind of bullying and dogpiling. And I just want to say, full stop. It's never okay to make threats. It's just okay to say on live TV that you hope somebody goes out of business and that they're ruining your culture by existing.
He literally says that like in 2 sentences.
It's never okay to bully and harass online. And what I mean by that, I don't mean that the business owners don't deserve valid criticism, and I don't believe you should not be vocal about your disagreement, but I think we can all agree, common sense, there is a line that you don't and shouldn't cross. There's a line that you wouldn't cross in person, and I just don't want the legacy of this segment to be pitchforks and people fearing for their safety. I think we're starting to lose the plot of, and what ultimately the positive energy of this moment is, which is, let's educate people. Let's make the world a better place. Let's make people aware that certain things aren't okay from a cultural perspective. Shut up!
It's just so insufferable.
He's 2 seconds away from demanding reparations from these people.
We're losing the plot. I don't want the legacy. It's like, dude, you set this tone when you came out. Like, okay, so that's why I keep reinforcing that throughout the article, is that even if we disagree with him, right, which we all pretty much do. I guarantee your viewers who are watching right now and everybody goes,
it's safe to say that he doesn't have many supporters in my audience.
So let's put it that way. Oh dang, what was I gonna say? Shoot, I totally forgot what I was gonna say to that point. Oh well, it'll probably come back to me.
Yeah. No, you were saying that we might not, we don't agree with what he's saying.
Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah. So like 90, everybody in there's going to be very few supporters of Liu in your audience, but we all agree that even if somebody is trying to make a point that we disagree with, there's a way to go about it with an intention of, I'm actually trying to help, or like I'm trying to communicate something, right? Liu could have been like, yo, this is really cool. I love your dedication. And asked a question. Like, have you had any interest about mentioning Taiwan on the can? And then if they go, no, you go, that could be a really cool thing to do, blah, blah, blah. That, talk to them as people instead of immediately condescending and going, you guys are bad people. Get out of my face. You set this tone. You can't be surprised when people start picking that up and getting the pitchforks.
You know, one of the biggest shows on Netflix right now is Cobra Kai. Weird how Simu Liu hasn't, gone after his Japanese culture being represented by white people and Americans in that show. Isn't that kind of weird? Or is it because he doesn't want to piss off Netflix? Because
That's what it is, right?
You choose the battles.
It's okay to attack a relatively unknown boba company, but don't you dare, talk trash on a company that might hire. I mean, they do work with him. Wasn't he in that? He was the villain of that J-Lo movie, the robot movie from last December. There was some sci-fi Atlas, I think it's called. There was a sci-fi movie, and Simu's the bad guy. So you're not even like that far off. You're more on point than I think you meant with that statement. He's avoiding
and that's not
all potential hands.
And by the way, that's not me saying Cobra Kai is doing anything wrong. I'm saying by Simu Liu's logic, they would be doing something wrong. But
by
you don't
see Simu Liu's logic, having 2 dojos that teach Asian martial arts run by white guys should be, but you're not going to hear anything.
3, because John Kreese.
That's right. I forgot about Kreese's. I forgot he brought his in too. So 3, and we're not hearing anything about it. So
no,
it's
nothing.
all performative. It's all performative.
It's all performative. And instead of going after a big company like Netflix or Disney, he'll go after a small business owner. That's pretty much the way he's going to do it, because he can actually destroy them. When people's personal safety are being questioned, I think that's when when I have to take issue. And I say that as someone who has quite honestly been on the other side. Rumors have spiraled out of control. Social media has kind of done its toxic thing. And I felt myself, kind of on the other side of an internet dog pile.
Me!
It's one of the worst things you can go through, and it causes undue mental stress and trauma. And in the case of these folks, they're fearing for their physical safety. So I just want to say this. I believe that the entrepreneurs of this business came on Dragon's Den to pitch a business in good faith. There were a lot of things with the pitch that I took issue with and disagreed with. And as a result, I pulled out as a potential investor. But that doesn't mean that
No, you didn't. I hate that line. I believe that the entrepreneurs came on this to pitch in good faith. You didn't. You literally, that was your entire disagreement.
You accused them of stealing your culture, which isn't your culture.
Right, exactly. So that's good faith to you? What am I supposed to take away from this? This is what Marvin and I are talking about, guys. It's all self-serving. It's all, what can I say right now to make it look like I win and ignore everything else? And unfortunately, without sites Marvin, or writers like Marvin over at Park Place or me over at Bounding, without us calling them out, this is what would go into the record and would just keep going into history. And everybody would go, look, he just disagreed with them. He thought it was good faith. And it's no, he did not in the least.
Yeah, I pulled out as a potential investor, but that doesn't mean that I believe they deserve harassment and threats. I think a lot of grace should be afforded them.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
This is my favorite part.
Yeah.
A lot of grace should be afforded them because they're French Canadians. I think their exposure to these types of cultural conversations was limited. And I also feel like English was not their first language. And when you have cameras pointed at you and you're put on the spot and you have to kind of answer these questions that I don't believe they were prepared to answer, I think you're going to say a couple things that are not perfect and not the best worded. So, yeah, the French Canadians are just a simple people. We can't...
The French Canadians have never seen a computer, Marvin. They can't read an internet headline about the most talked about stupid social battle of the last 5 years. What are you talking about?
No, they just discovered tea. They just discovered tea, let alone bubble tea. Yeah, they're just starting to use tools over there in French Canada. Sacre bleu. When we make this stone into a round circle, it can roll down the hill.
Dang it, you took my joke. I was going to go, look, you can keep the water in bowl, but bigger bowl. This is crazy. Put the boba in it.
We are on the cutting edge now.
This is so insane where, this is racism. This is condescension. There's nothing about being French Canadian that precludes you from turning on the internet and reading something, right? This is so... you're seeing it again and again. He's just trying to say things that make it look like he's okay, and it just makes it so much worse every time he opens his mouth.
Sacre bleu! How is that little bird staying in the sky?
Sacre bleu! We have images in front of us, but not made from fire. What is happening? That's what Simu thinks of.
Mon Dieu! There are people trapped in this box.
And it's also like, I cannot get through this door. I don't know how to get out. And it's even more insane because I just remembered, like, when it comes to Canada, like French Canadians, like there's a whole thing between everybody there. It's not like you can just casually say that. That probably that probably sparked a bunch of turf wars. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah. And you know, to a degree, yes, it's 2024. We expect that people do their part and educate themselves. But at the end of the day, I try to live my life, my real life, and those and the people around me, I give grace and I ask for a lot of grace. I'm not a perfect human, but neither are any of the people in my life. In my life. And I just feel like I wish we had a little bit more of that energy online. You know, I wish that social media could be more of a habitable place where we could actually voice respectful disagreement with one another, where we could respond to people as if we were looking each other in the eye and say, okay, I hear what you're saying. This is my problem with it. This is my issue. And we can have someone on the other end saying, I hear you. Thank you for saying that. We don't agree, but I appreciate that we had this conversation.
Again, it's not what you did. You went out and you got on your high horse and you condescended at them and you shut them down. Did you offer that same level of grace to Bob Iger when you thought he was talking smack on Asians as experimental? No, you ran and you just went with it. So like, I don't believe you for any of this.
Bob Iger had some secret lab underneath Discovery Island in Walt Disney World where he's experimenting on Asians to turn them into some kind of super box office generating mutants.
And it's just like, what are you talking about, Simu? So yeah, again, it's just, he's trying to make it seem like he was more graceful and more calm and more reasonable than everybody else. And we know for a fact that's not happening.
No, and I just want to say to Simu Liu, I want to say to him, I hear you. Thank you for saying that. We don't agree, but that's because you're an idiot.
Just the biggest idiot. Like, this is the classic level of like Simpsons, Futurama, Family Guy, dumb celebrity jokes, but like brought to life. Like, it's almost impressive if it wasn't so annoying all the time.
And then he goes, I also want to say that the show has been kind of catching some strays. My fellow dragons have been catching some strays. And kind of along the same vein of what I was saying before, we have such a short time to formulate our responses when we film these segments. Oftentimes, you're seeing a lot of knee-jerk reactions and micro expressions. It should be noted that he clearly begins to say microaggressions before correcting himself.
If you guys watch the video, you hear him very clearly, like, and the reason I point this out is he's clearly going on script. Like, he knows what you're supposed to say in this moment. So he's going a lot of knee-jerk reactions and microaggressions because that's what he thinks you're supposed to say. But then he goes, oh, wait, that'll make me sound even dumber. And like, I have less of a point. Micro expressions. And it's like, buddy,
microaggression is one of those words that like everyone immediately tunes out the second you use it.
Yep. Yeah, at this point, it's one of those micro.
He's pretty much used every one of those words throughout the course of this, by the way.
By the time we get to the last sentence, Marvin, he will have used every buzzword. He will have used every rhetorical tactic to get out of this. It is, again, almost impressive.
Yeah. Going on here, he goes on. Basically, this entire paragraph here is him trying to cover for the fact that one of the dragons disagreed with him. And trying to say that actually they agree with him. We got in the break room. Everyone was all ears. Everyone was like, I want to hear more about what your perspective is. Let's have a conversation. No, I guarantee you they weren't.
And then he goes, hit that next part, because that's the part where I'm like, or you go ahead, Marvin. You're in control here. What am I doing? I'm just excited.
I really wish that had been filmed, but that isn't the reality. And so, of course, the segment is what everyone has to go off of. So, yeah, just to conclude all my thoughts, let's not cross that line. Let's disagree with each other. Let's critique each other. Let's critique this idea of cultural appropriation. If you try to critique the idea of it, you're going to call people problematic and scream about how they have to be canceled. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
What we're not going to do is threaten people's physical safety and make people feel unsafe and cause them trauma. There's another buzzword that quite honestly they don't deserve as entrepreneurs who, in good faith, there's another buzzword, attempted to pitch a business. Drawing his statement to a close, he ultimately told his fans, was it misguided? I believe so. A little ignorant? Absolutely. Are these guys the biggest pieces of crap walking the planet? Do they deserve all?
Yeah,
No,
I mean, no. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no.
do they deserve death threats? Yes. No, I mean, no.
Yeah.
But those are all human things. And so, yeah, I guess I'm just asking for empathy and compassion. Thank you again for all of your words of support. I've really, really appreciated it. My
I really,
God.
really like. I can't believe he ends that. But so that moment of excitement I had a second ago, Marvin, is when he gets to that point where he says, "I really wish that had been filmed, but in the reality, like that didn't happen. So the segment is what everyone has to go off of." That was what I was getting excited with because that's like the hat trick on everything. He's going, "Oh, I didn't mean it that way. The people who I was talking to, they're ignorant. They don't know anything anyway. And also, all the good stuff happened off camera. We got manipulated by editing." And it's like, no, dude, it's every excuse. It's like you were pointing out, it's every buzzword to make sure that you see him as this, so small, so soft, so like I'm your ally, I'm your friend kind of guy, when in reality, it's all fake. Like we have a lot of people in our spheres. I mean, I mentioned them at the beginning, like your Zack Snyders, your Brie Larsons, who we all disagree with heavily. Right? Like, especially with, Snyder's takes on how superheroes should be, or Larson's rhetoric about not needing to hear from white people. But there's at least in my opinion, I won't speak for Marvin, but I at least feel like from them, yeah, I disagree with them, but there's a genuine feeling there, whether they understand it all or not. Like Larson probably genuinely believes all of that social justice rhetoric she was spouting out and being fed at that time. Zach genuinely believes everything he's saying about how, heroes need to kill and all that stuff. Simu Liu would drop anything he believes in favor of the next progressive thing that will get me attention and like a bonus.
Well, that's
right?
the other thing. You had Shang-Chi and
all performative.
You had Shang-Chi and Barbie, and then his career hasn't exactly exploded after that. So he's trying to keep his name in the public consciousness, and he did it here.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. It's about keeping his star shining. And I mean, you bring up Barbie, but I would argue that Barbie was a big miss for him too. He's in it for like 3 seconds, and then he gets to dance, but it's an ensemble dance moment that's still around Ryan Gosling, and then he's kind of just gone from the movie. There's no treatment to his character. It's more like, hey, look, it's Shang-Chi guy. All right, let's keep going. We have a story to tell.
All right, guys. So you've heard a lot from us today. This is probably one of the longest regular Tooney Town TV videos we've done, but I think it was needed, and it was a fun conversation. And now we want to hear from you. Tell us, what do you think about Simu Liu's comments? Was there any validity to it? Is there an angle that we are not seeing that you can then tell us about? Because if we're wrong, we're two guys that will own it. And guys, make sure you're going over there to Bounding Into Comics and checking out everything that Spencer and his team got going over there. They run a tight ship, and it is a great location to go for all of your.
I can say the same for all of you over at TVP, at Tooney Town TV, and Tooney Town Wrestling. I always got to remember they're two separate names because I always put it all together. But everybody should. I know I'm stealing your moment, and I'm going to say, go check out all of Marvin's stuff because he's been absolutely killing it lately. All of the Tooney Town Wrestling stuff has been super entertaining. Even as someone who's using that to get into wrestling, it's been awesome. Tooney Town TV is always a blast, and Marvin's putting out some of the best theme park journalism in a long time. I don't even remember the last time I could say I trust a theme park outlet, or at least a theme park writer. Let's put it that way. And I have Marvin. So
thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. All right, guys, sound off. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know.
Guys, don't get me wrong, hating Simu Liu is a preferred pastime of many YouTube personalities, but I think that Spencer Baculi has really perfected the malevolent loathing into an art form. And what's not to hate? The guy appeared on a TV show and attempted to get an entire business, an entity that people worked hard for, that the families of these employees depend on for food and clothes, wiped off the face of the map. He did so with venom and insidious intentions. He tried to use this moment to put himself back in the public eye. But the thing about inciting a mob is that oftentimes you lose control of it. That's what happened when Simu incited the deranged 4chan bros of the world, hoping they'd hold him up high as their virtue signaling savior.
I am assuming direct control.
But instead, they started threatening real people's actual lives.
Well, how about that?
And let's be real, he only released his little TikTok video because he had an oh crap moment. A moment where someone in his circle told him that he needed to fix this right the hell now. And so he said what he said while taking no responsibility for his rhetoric and only strengthening the resolve of those that he pandered to.
Shields up.
Yes, he called for the threats to stop, but he also planted his feet and doubled down on the criticisms he leveled at these people. The very same criticisms that galvanized these weirdos into action in the first place. Does this dude literally have nothing better to do than stir the pot like this while waiting around for Marvel to greenlight Shang-Chi 2? Does he really have to try to destroy the livelihoods of hard-working Canadian entrepreneurs because they're encroaching on a product that he claims is the property of his culture, despite not actually being from that culture? There was some cultural appropriation going on in this situation, folks, but it was Simu Liu appropriating Taiwanese culture as his own. And given Taiwan's tumultuous relationship with China, I'd say that's not something that these people want. And I don't want to hear about how Taiwan is a part of China. Tell it to John Cena as he makes his next pathetic groveling apology video.
你好，中国，这是叫西呢。我爱更尊重中国，更中国人。我很抱歉对我的错误。
Bottom line, this was a despicable display from a despicable person. And if, God forbid, anything happens to these poor people who were victimized by this Hollywood phony, then that all lays on the head of Simu Liu. Thanks for joining us today, and a huge thanks to all of our Tooneytown TV channel members. You guys keep the lights on around here, and for that you get exclusive content like the Unnamed True Crime Podcast with Marv and Trish, Kevin Apollo's Rants, Marv's Theme Park Breakdown, and more, including a special live stream every Friday at 2 p.m. EST. So if you're not a Tooneytown TV channel member, join now. And please join us Thursday nights at 8 p.m. EST for Tooney Talk TV. It's a live stream pop culture podcast where you can make your voice heard as a vital part of the Tooneytown community. If you liked what you saw here today, please like, share, and subscribe. Click the bell icon to get notified of new videos as they drop. From all of us here at the Tooneytown channels, I'm Marvin the Movie Monster. Now get out of here!